Welcome to the Frontier Leader Show. Today, Martin is talking to Wendy Kier.
I have 12 agents that I call my high-level strategic partners. These are really, if you have a one-person business, this is the team that you really want. You want a CEO, you want a business coach, you want a marketing manager, you want a sales mentor, you want somebody that's going to help you to scale. So those are all individual roles. Those are very different to the other agents that, write my social media, write my newsletter. So I've got two different types. I've got strategic and then I've got task-based agents.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Frontier Leader Show. I'm Martin Wheatley, and each week I speak to leaders, coaches, practitioners and technologists working out what good leadership looks like in an AI-shaped world. While you still have the app open, hit follow or subscribe button not to miss out on the next episode. And if you want a practical starting point for leading with AI, I have a growing number of resources at theAIleaderlab.com, and the link is in the show notes. But today we have a fantastic guest. We're joined by Wendy Kier, founder of Empower AI, a coach and an innovator who's exploring the next frontier of AI, moving beyond just the basic productivity hacks onto something more meaningful and using AI as a genuine thought partner for coaches and consultants and authors. So Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Martin.
So I know I gave a little bit of your background there, but for people who don't know you, tell us about Wendy Kier. What's your background and how have you become a champion of AI? It's the way you have done.
Yeah, my background's actually quite diverse. I hadn't actually heard of AI. I had no concept of what it was. I worked 20 years in social services. Then I started my own business about 15 years ago, and I was teaching people how to create a signature program, which was identify, create and sell. I'm dyslexic, and I was using a tool, I won't name it because it's quite popular. I was using an online tool to help me with my dyslexia, but it was absolutely crap. It was just, for a dyslexic, I spent more time trying to correct the tool than I did actually of it being any benefit. I'd heard of ChatGPT and I thought, why don't I just give that a go? And it just completely changed my life. That's not even an exaggeration. I could articulate myself. I could create offers quickly. It just completely changed my life on so many levels. Before ChatGPT, so I've used it basically since it came out. Before, I would struggle to articulate myself. It would take me months to bring programs together. I always felt that I wasn't good enough in business because I couldn't spell properly. I just fell in love with AI and technology and what it could do. Sometimes I'm actually ahead of ChatGPT and it brings things in that I've been doing for a while, but I feel like I'm quite in tune. I'm very much in tune with it. So we just think the same way, but it's much smarter than me, obviously. It's much more intelligent than me. It's got a bigger database than my brain's got.
It's interesting that, the dyslexic angle is quite interesting. There's a charity that I work with and the CEO of that charity is dyslexic as well. And she uses it to help form her documentation that she has to fill out, pitch decks or grant decks and everything like that. And it's such a leveler to help communication on that front.
Oh, for learning, there's nothing else like it. I mean, I think what's nice about it is for someone who's dyslexic or ADHD, is that if you're struggling to understand something or to articulate something in a certain way, in your own system, it models itself around you so you understand. So it feeds it back to you in a way that you can understand. And if you can't understand it, you just go, I don't understand, tell me it a different way. So the learning experience is very different to, let's just say, if you were just reading a book, which probably dyslexics aren't going to do anyway, to be fair. But, unless you're reading some flat material, it's a very, very different learning environment for someone like me.
It's such a fantastic tool, obviously, and like your background, like mine, is not in the information technology space, in the IT space, and that's what makes it great. What kind of caused you to pivot to build Empower AI then?
Yeah, so as I said, I was teaching people to create signature programs, which is when you're working with a client, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Martin, When you're working with a client, they do really well. So when I was teaching people to create signature programs, they did really well because they had we would focus on the low-hanging fruit within the business. So they would get clients, they would up their fees, create the program, blah, blah, blah. But once they left me, they struggled because they'd marketed to the low-hanging fruit and they didn't know how to use other modalities to market what it is that they created. So I started off by teaching how to use ChatGPT to, create a webinar, to run a webinar, how to use ChatGPT to run a virtual summit, how to use ChatGPT to create images. So I did all these programs that would help people to market the signature program. Then they brought out GPTs. That's when everything changed. Because if you can create a role, a job description and a role, you can create a GPT and an agent to fulfill that role. So then I'm more from going through the process of ChatGPT, this is how you use it to this and that, to actually creating set-based roles, GPTs, agents that people can use to fulfill a specific job. So the last one I created is to help clients do the branding archetype for one offer. So it takes them through a series of questions, quite in-depth questions, and then it creates a report. It pulls out all the language. It pulls out everything that they need basically to use for marketing, which would otherwise cost them thousands of pounds and months to get their head around. We can do it in a couple of hours now. So I've basically started to create all of these roles to help founders and one-person business owners with tasks which they couldn't normally afford to outsource or do themselves or understand how to do themselves.
So it morphed into that side of the agent space, I suppose, to put some words to it. How many agents are you actually working with, first of all, within your business?
So at the moment, I've got 70.
70, okay.
70, right?
I knew it was going to be a high number.
Yeah, and I'm in the process of making 10 for clients.
Right.
Yeah. If I had my way, right, I would just create agents and I wouldn't do any of the rest of the business. But you know what it's like being a one-person business owner. You have to wear all of these different hats and do all of these different things. But if I had my choice, I would just spend my life creating agents because I like turning frameworks into something that's usable and is cost effective. So I've got a lot.
Wow, yeah. 70 is a lot. I mean, I followed a similar kind of learning curve to you with the custom GPTs within ChatGPT, but I mean, I'm not quite up to 70 yet. But that's an impressive number. But is there one agent that you tend to use more than the others, or are they all tasked to specific?
So
I suppose
I don't. So I have 12 agents that I call my high-level strategic partners. These are really, if you have a one-person business, this is the team that you really want. You want a CEO, you want a business coach, you want a marketing manager, you want a sales mentor, you want somebody that's going to help you to scale. So those are all individual roles. Those are very different to the other agents that, write my social media, write my newsletter. So I've got two different types. I've got strategic and then I've got task-based agents. The most popular one is the one that I am keen on people using is actually the CEO, is the big picture thinking in your business, because that's what a lot of people actually lack. And I teach people how to use the CEO on a daily basis. So they use it during the week. It helps them make decisions, helps them to focus on what they need to focus on and ditch anything else. But more importantly, at the end of the week or the start of the new week, they can create a founder report that lets them know not just how well the business is doing, but how well they are doing as an individual inside of their business. And the awesome thing about that is it's not just about the CEO. I can bring the business coach in, I can bring the marketing manager in, I can bring the sales mentor in, and we can do a report with all these different perspectives on the business. So it's not just the CEO. We've basically got a team within the business that people didn't have access to before, but the CEO is the most popular. Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, if you were to build that team with people, even if you did it on a fractional basis where we had a CEO person come in once a week and do that activity with you, you're talking thousands and thousands a month, aren't you?
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
for individual operators and small firms, this is a massive leverage of that technology.
It's huge.
And a lot of people use it for productivity hacks and summarize this email, put some unicorn emojis in there or whatever they do with it. And what I'm getting from your kind of agent structure is it's a lot more of a decision partner. It's helping you refine your thought process and challenging you on it, I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's designed to help you make faster, smarter decisions that impact the business, the family life, and the wider community. So it's really about helping you to get out of your own way and to do things differently. But you are always in the driving seat. You're always in the driving seat. And I'm not a fan. Okay, it's not that I'm not a fan. Productivity isn't my thing, although I probably fit into that bubble. Hacks aren't my thing. Prompting isn't my thing. I'm really about conversation, learning. I don't do automation. I do workflows. We have workflows, but we don't do automation. And I'm not one of these people that follows the crowd. You know, people are always sending me stuff saying, oh, look at this. You must be doing this. I'm like, no, just go away. Just let me stay in my lane and do what I want to do. Because everybody is generally copying one another. And people are giving bad advice because they're just all copying one another. And not one of them has got a really solid foundation and understanding of what it is they're copying. I see it online all the time and I'm just like, okay, I've heard this 50 times now.
Yeah, and I guess I think there are a lot of AI, I want to say quote experts out there, but which is a kind of a fallacy at the minute, because as soon as you say you're an expert on it, you're out of date as soon as it leaves your mouth. But I think people like yourself, who's come from a varied background, speaking, coaching, public service, that kind of realm, you can see where you can make enhancements and where you can use AI to challenge it. So you don't need to be an AI expert to do it. Although the more you use the skills, obviously, the more confident you get and the more you can build out, and then it will iterate and iterate, won't it? But
yeah.
So do you tend to predominantly stick within ChatGPT, or do you vary into Claude, Gemini, any of the others? Or?
Up until this point, I have only used ChatGPT because my understanding has been, and I keep researching this every couple of weeks because I keep hearing everyone talking about Claude, but I think I'm still in the right lane. My understanding is that the GPT environment is better than Claude. It's more contained, it's more nuanced, it's deeper. And also I like the fact that you can bring the agents in to have a conversation with one another. That's really important to me. I don't think, you might be able to correct me on this, Martin, because I really don't know the answer. It updates and it changes all the time. But my understanding is that Claude can't do that to the same degree.
No, I agree. It can't. The bit that you mentioned there about bringing each of the agents in as a conversation and just atting them in the prompt to bring each one in and give its perspective, then move on to another one. Yeah, that doesn't exist in Claude as far as I'm aware.
Interesting, yeah.
So the only kind of workaround I've been able to do with it is use the skills function, which I think is now in ChatGPT, isn't it? It's the new thing that they released with 5.4.
I haven't got it yet. I think I just saw something this morning and I thought, oh my God, that's something else for me to look at. My head's going to explode. I'm like, let me get my head around this first and then I'll look at the new thing, because otherwise it's just too much.
Yeah, I think that the difference between your custom GPTs and a skill is just an order of events. It's like an SOP, a standard operating practice process.
Is it like a project?
It kind of guides the model through certain steps.
Right, okay.
Rather than your custom GPT where you will chat and interact with it, and it's a bit different. But for repetitive,
it's very different.
Yeah, for repetitive kind of tasks, such as building a voice skill or something, it will help you craft something in the background that you can use repetitively. But you're right, you can't have the same interaction nuance as you can with a custom GPT, from what I've found anyway.
I think when you create a GPT, I have a habit of calling them agents, because of the depth of the training you can give it, or the depth of the information you can give it, and the framework that you can help it to work within, it's much more agentic. It's much more nuanced. It's really into the detail of the conversation and reading through the whole conversation. So it's more of a backwards and forwards of a human AI conversation interaction. Whereas in projects, you give it, I should imagine it's a bit like a skill. You set up a project. So I use projects quite differently as well. But the rule is, you create a project, you give it a master prompt or a master instruction, and then everything within that project is contained around that. So it's not so fluid.
No.
Whereas GPT, the container for a GPT has much more depth and much more protection.
So let's just back up slightly. Let's just walk through very, very simply, I suppose. How do you typically set up a custom GPT, a GPT agent? What are the kind of main elements that are needed for it?
Yeah. So I have a scoping session with a client. We scope out. So I was working with a client this morning who wants it to write books around her own methodology for schools. So I'll spend some time with her and scope out, what she actually wants the agent to do. From that, I create a job description. Job description is really helpful because it sets the container, it sets the parameters, it helps the agent to understand what the role is. It's really specifically what the role is. I use the headings of a traditional job description, so it sets the framework. From there, I create like a 60-page master document, which goes through, I think it's about 24 steps now, which are created from the job description and the other information that I've got to lock in the agent so it works properly. So it covers things like tone of voice, the obvious things. I have some additional things in there that are unique to my IP. So all my agents are trauma-informed, all mine are ethically based. They all deal with biases from the user who's using them. So I then create that master document, plop it into the system, and create the agent that way. And also I lock it in as well, so nobody can actually go recreate this GPT. So I have like a lock-in document that I put in the knowledge base that stops people from accessing, because each agent is unique to each individual, and the essence and the theory and the methodology. If you're creating crap agents, then yes, you can copy them. If you're creating agents with depth, you've got no chance.
Yeah, because it's personal, it's specific.
It's their theories, it's their frameworks, it's how they think about the business, it's what they want it to do, what they don't want it to do. But I lock it in anyway. I lock it in, and it just says, it will just say something polite. Then this is outside the scope. Please contact. But that is tightly knitted into the agent. It's not here's a one line, let me shove it at the top of the prompts or the master instructions, which is what most people are doing. This is really tightly locked in.
So that's quite clear guardrails then about how you can use it and what happens if the user goes off script and tries to get something else out of it, because that's always a challenge, I think, for people building them from scratch. For the first time, anyway. And when you're working with a client, then how is there quite a lot of, you obviously go through, you get your job description and your more detailed prompt, if you like, that goes into it.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of iteration and testing after that? Is it a bit of back and forth?
I've been very lucky, touch wood. Basically, when I've created an agent, that's it. They're really happy with it. People are so blown away by how cool it is.
Yeah.
Clients are blown away by how cool it is. So it's difficult to know, but the client's happy. That's all that matters. But it's actually difficult. It's difficult to know because no one has ever come back to me and gone, I'm not happy with this.
No, I mean, I guess just following on from what you said before, I mean, the detail that you go down to from starting with a job description through your detailed analysis to the detailed building of it. I mean, you're already minimizing the gap for any kind of deviation from there anyway, especially with the guardrails. So but you're right. I mean, the first time somebody uses a custom GPT or the output of a custom GPT, should I say, is mind-blowing, especially if it's, we'll come on to your AI book companion in a second. But
they're mind-blowing.
When it's their own content and thoughts and intellectual property for a formal word of it, but formal term. But so just explain the AI book companion piece to us then, because that kind of feeds on from the agents in many regards.
The book companions are really something to me, they're really, really special. They are my favorite things to create because they're so beneficial to the client. Right. So I've written my own book called Be More Wolf, which was based around my personal story of growing up in the care system. So I turned that into an agent and I did a really bad job. I did a really bad job. Back out and basically doesn't allow me to use it because I didn't create a framework around it. And because the book is so sensitive, you know, it talks about all sorts of crazy stuff. Chat was like, it just spat it back out and said that just wouldn't let me use it. So I decided to do a decent job and actually create the framework that the book could sit with inside of ChatGPT. What's unique about the book companion is it is equivalent to basically having the author in your pocket. So you have a conversation with a book. So basically, let's just say you've read something and you're not quite sure about what it means. You can ask the agent and you can say, I'm not sure what this means. This is what I'm experiencing. Explain it to me in context with the book. And it will come back and it will tell you. The last book agent I created was for a woman called Sarah, called The Love Companion, I think it was. And she's got a traumatic history. Everything is in context to the book. It doesn't go outside of the book. It stays within the book, and it will give the perspective of what Sarah believes to be true in the context of the book and the question that's being asked. That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I can immediately see the benefits of it from someone who. I mean, I do read quite a lot. I mean, most of the books I read are on Audible now. But if you get a book, especially if it's a powerful book that's kind of not asking you to change, one that you're going to be thinking through and interacting with, having that companion to interact with and ask questions, surely that must, from a reader's point of view, it must just lengthen the engagement of what they have with that book and what they're getting out with it, and the interaction, the relationship with the author.
Yeah. What we're finding is that, and this is across the board, what we're finding is the book companion and the book, the two things must go together. You shouldn't have them. I mean, you can have them separately once you understand the context of the subject, but initially they go together. But what's happening for the practitioners is that during their week, they're going, use the agent to have a conversation with based on what you're experiencing. So when that client next comes into the session, they're not at a surface level, which is generally what tends to happen when you go into some form of therapeutic session. You're normally like, you've almost gone back to square one. This isn't happening because they're having a conversation with the book during the week, or Sarah during the week. When they come into the session, they're at a completely different level. They're much deeper into the process and understanding their own behavior and where they're at. So it's a very different type of conversation. It's not surface level anymore. It's much deeper.
No. It enhances exactly all the interaction throughout, doesn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing, Martin, that is really, really cool about this is once you've got a book agent sitting inside of ChatGPT, if you're using one, if you're just having a conversation in ChatGPT during the week, and you want to then bring the book in and say, have a look at above. Can you think of anything in the book that I could use that is useful from this conversation? It's going to go through the book and then it's going to give you an answer, which means that you're going to be more likely to be able to, I'm not going to say, I don't want the word change your behavior comes into it, but to learn, see a different perspective, maybe do things differently. That is, from the perspective of the book, it's just nuts.
And it is fascinating, and it's although it's linked to the book as well. I'm assuming when authors revisit the book and re-update, it's quite I wouldn't say quick process, but you can quickly update the GP, the knowledge base behind it.
Yeah. You just re-upload the manuscript. Everything else stays the same. Everything else will stay the same. You just reload the manuscript into the knowledge base.
Yeah. And within there, you build in the similar kind of guardrails that you did with your
all the
GPTs,
same.
do you?
It's the same process. Yeah, it's slightly different. It's slightly different because it needs to focus more on trauma-informed language. The guardrails are a bit more tighter.
Yeah.
But yeah, the framework is pretty much the same for all the agents.
Yeah.
It's just the
Okay.
job description that changes. It's just the job description that changes.
And yeah, I guess that's a really good way to describe it, because I've always, so the way things are going, you read a report from Microsoft and it's all about agentic teams and workforces, and the way of imagining it as an agent having a job spec, like a person, this is what you need them to do, I think is a really good way of thinking of it, because then you can quite
Yeah,
clearly define what it should be doing, what it shouldn't be doing, and where it shouldn't go off tangent.
yeah,
Whether it's with your AI book companion like that, or whether it's with your CEO agent that you've got sat doing your
yeah,
interaction at the end of the week. And
yeah.
so no, I think it's a great way of thinking it through logically.
It's nice. I think it's in the nuance, isn't it? It's in
Mm,
the nuance of what you're creating. And I guess because of my background in social services, I'm very risk aware, and that cuts down the level of risk. And
yeah.
also, if you want to sell agents commercially, you've got to have a framework. You can't just
Mm.
vibe code the bloody things, which everyone's talking about. I'm just like, are you lot nuts? You're going to sell those commercially? Are you mad?
No, yeah. I mean, my background is financial services and regulated industries, and so
Yes,
I
and you know.
appreciate, understand exactly what you're saying there. And I vibe coded something last year, and it wasn't anything complex. It just scraped terms off contracts. But I don't. It could never be commercialized fully because I wasn't
Yeah,
aware of it. Were there any holes in the
yeah,
back end that people, and that's where it needs to get a lot more detailed, with a lot more rigor around it from an expert, and that's rightly so.
yeah.
But
I
yeah, it's an
agree with you.
interesting time.
You see, this is what I mean about there's so much hype and talk in the market that I just do not listen to it. I don't listen to
Mm.
it. I don't pay any attention to it because I know that it's not built on anything that has too much depth.
Yeah, yeah. But I think the way that I mean, you've stuck to ChatGPT, you're using it, and I think that's a good example, really, of you're using it for what works for your circumstance. You're not
Yeah,
chasing the next shiny thing to come along. You're not rushing to look at Claude. You're not rushing to look at Manus, or anything like that.
yeah,
You're building what works for you in your scenario with your
yeah,
clients, and I think that sometimes is half the battle. I mean, I'm like a magpie. I get shiny thing syndrome all the time. As soon as something's out, I'm on it. But I think from a business point of view, absolutely, you need to try and pick the tool that works best for what you're trying to get out of it, and you've clearly leveraged that quite well.
I think you need my CEO, Martin, because if I put in, because when when Clawbot came out, everyone kept sending me stuff about
Yeah,
Clawbot. Oh, you must do this.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh God, maybe I should be doing this. And then I pulled it into my CEO, and he said, forget it.
yeah, yeah,
He said, don't look at it. No, park it.
yeah.
It's going to
Well,
take you out of your lane. Leave it alone. So I'm like, right, I'm going to listen to you. Leave it alone. So I've parked it for next year. By then, we'll be a bit clearer about how, yeah, it looks very complicated. It looks really complicated.
Well, I think just yeah. I mean, if you know, I mean, I've not delved onto it yet. I've used the Claude light version of it, if you like. That's a bit more easy to do. I haven't built out OpenClaw, whatever it's called now.
Yeah. I think I was going to say, I think I can't say the word, NVIDIA.
Oh, Nvidia.
I think that would be a better option. However, you
Mm,
can only use their software, which is no good for us.
yeah, the Nemo Claw.
Yeah, the Nemo Claw looks like a better option. Yeah, but it's limited because you can only use their software, which is no good for me. It might be good. Yeah, it might be good for my business, but it won't be good for my clients.
No, I mean, the OpenAI have brought in the person who built OpenClaw, haven't they? I think so. We'll see. I mean, I would expect
Yeah,
something to come
I
on
mean,
chat
see,
soon. But
this is the thing, right? Is that one week ChatGPT is in the lead, next week Claude's in the lead, next week something else is in the lead. You cannot run a business around whatever is in the lead or whatever people are jumping ship. You just ship. You can't do it.
No, you can't. You just blow through a lot of money and chase the next shiny thing. So no, I get it. And just coming back to your CEO agent, there's a big thing around obviously continuously updating and making sure that they're adapting, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. Does your CEO agent, do you regularly update that with like on a monthly or quarterly basis?
I've never updated it ever because it works. Because it works, and I'm not even sure what I'd be updating it with. And because ChatGPT automatically updates itself, unless I wanted, I would only update it if I wanted to add another framework into it. But to be honest, I would probably clone it and then create another agent that does that specific role. So I have created second generational agents, which are interesting. Lucas, the CEO, I've cloned it. I've kept Lucas in the background, and then I've put another framework on top of it. So Lucas is about 70%, and the new framework is, 30%. And I've put the two things together into one new agent. So I've done like a second generational agent from the original one that I've created. Once they work, I leave them. I don't fiddle with them. I do this little test when I create them. I go on I do something like on a score of 1 to 10, how good is this agent? And then it'll give you scores in all the different areas. And then I'm like, if it's an 8, I might try and push it a little bit further. But you don't want to keep fiddling with it, because you can overwrite the essence of what it is that you've created. You've got to be really careful that you don't try and make it a 10 all the time, because a 10 could lose some of the nuance some of the personality, some of the nuance that you've created. So you have to be really, really careful not to push them too much.
Yeah, I agree. The more detail, well, not the more detailed, but the more time you spend, certainly on one chat, it's got more chance of hallucinating, hasn't it? And going off topic and on all sorts.
Do you know, my agents don't do that. And I think it's because of the framework. I think the framework is so tight, and because we are dealing more with conversation, they don't do it.
Yeah.
They just don't do it.
That's good in itself, to be honest. I think the way they built the agents is obviously really comprehensive. It comes down to what you put in it and in your prompt, doesn't it? In your master prompt and all the context, the knowledge files or whatever that goes in.
Yeah.
But, wow. 70 agents. I've got a few to do till I catch up with you.
Listen, don't the way I create agents has developed. So actually some of those agents could be morphed into one agent.
Yeah.
And not all the agents are used, but I have a tendency, if I'm doing something on repeat. So one of the next agents that is on my list for my community is a business plan. A yearly and a quarterly business plan, because that's a repeatable process that is useful for business owners, because they never create a business plan that they can use. Normally, they create it and do nothing with it. But the power of AI means that you can create it and you can actually use it, because it takes from the context of the business plan. And now we can upload source documents and pull them in. That's new. We couldn't do that before. That makes it super, super easy and far more intelligent. So one of the ways that I use projects, I don't use them like people traditionally use them. I don't have a master prompt in the project, so I leave that blank. But then I think of a project like a filing cabinet, and then I use it as a project, but without a prompt. And we hold all our documents in there in relation to that specific project. And I say to people, use it like a filing cabinet, because then it becomes super intelligent and everything becomes interlinked.
You're not preempting the prompt from the start. You're letting it essentially build its knowledge base up first.
Yeah, to leave the prompt out, it's brilliant. It's really clever. And then it will refer to the documents, and it's really smart.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a go. I've always done it more traditional way around of making your master prompt and then putting your stuff in. But that's a different way of doing it.
A little trick is that, I don't know why, but when you never used to be able to use agents inside of projects. It wouldn't let you bring them in, but you can do it now. But for some reason, sorry, I'm babbling on. I love talking AI. Stop me if I'm babbling on.
It's gold. All this is really interesting. There's that many tools and tips and techniques in here. It's brilliant.
When you use a project, what you'll have to do is when you start your new chat, this is what I do. When I start a new chat, I will say, I won't bring in the agent straight away. I'll just basically say, I want to use this chat for, click enter, let it roll out whatever it wants to roll out. I never read it. But then you can bring the agent in. You can't do it the other way round. You can't bring the agent in and tell it to do something. When you do that, it automatically goes back to the normal chat. It takes it out of the project. I don't know why it does that, but it takes it outside of the project and it sits it in the left-hand side. So you always have to just go, right, I'm using this chat for blah, let it give its output and then bring in the agent.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I didn't know that myself actually, but
Yeah,
I'm assuming I'm assuming it's something to do with that first bit of the conversation is giving it that initial context, maybe.
Yeah, it seems a bit daft to me because it's a bit annoying because you forget. The other thing about projects that is a bit annoying is that you have to intentionally call the agent in and you have to keep an eye on that it's actually locked in the little chat box.
Yeah.
It can drop out, which is annoying. Hopefully they'll fix it.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between whether you use the browser version or the desktop app. I don't think you can always. I can't remember which. Do you use the browser version mainly?
No, I use just the desktop.
Oh dear, okay. Well, there's some that I found that you can act in one and not always as it's not always as seamless in the other, but they're iterating and shipping updates all the time, so I'm sure it'll just continue to get better, won't it? I mean, you've been through quite a lot there in terms of agents for helping you think, agents for keeping you on track, your AI book companion, which I think is a fantastic idea to help authors engage and more with the people who are reading it. Building of an agent or a custom GPT, using of projects. I mean, there's that many tips to take out of this conversation.
Yeah, sorry, I went on a bit much.
No, I think it's like I said. Normally we ask for three tips, but I think you've given about 7.
I've run out. They were all my best ones.
But no, look, we could talk all day on this, I'm sure.
For sure.
What's the best place for people to interact with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so the website is Wendy, WENDY, Kier, KIER.com. All one word, no, well, 2 words together.
Fantastic. I will leave the links in the show notes below with all of Wendy's contact information. And if you want to reach out with Wendy and discuss any of the solutions that she's mentioned here, obviously feel free to go for it. This has been a really, really informative conversation. And like I said, I could continue talking about this all day with you. So thank you very much for coming on, Wendy. I do genuinely appreciate it.
Thanks, Martin.
Now, for the listeners out there, if you found this useful, hit follow or subscribe if you haven't already. And a review or a rating does help the show, which I do appreciate. The AI Leadership Roadmap is available on my website too at theaileaderlab.com, and the link is in the show notes. Until next time, goodbye for now.